excited to have you guys here with us today for this presentation. I'm very, very excited to have Officer Lucas Abrams with us here as well. So I just want to do a few kind of housekeeping things before I introduce Officer Abrams and let him get into the presentation. Like I said, I'm Courtney Lane, your EMBA academic advisor. My colleague Jenny is going to put into the chat a link to our survey. If you wouldn't mind just taking a few minutes out of your day to fill out this survey, it is helping us to know what you want us to do these presentations on moving forward. These are all for you guys. We hope that they're beneficial to you. And so we would really, really love to have your feedback. I do just want to remind everyone that the Zoom meeting today is being recorded, so we will be able to post it to our YouTube page. That way you can go back and review, or for anyone that has to leave early or was not able to log in, they'll be able to see it as well. We are going to have questions at the end. Officer Abrams has been very kind to let us have a little bit more of his time. We're going to have those entered into the chat. So once we get to that point, if you'll just type in your question there, and then I will convey that to Officer Abrams. I think that's all the housekeeping stuff I had. So now just to introduce Officer Lucas Abrams a little bit. He's a supervisory federal officer with U.S. Customs and Border Protection here in Kansas City at the International Airport. His area of responsibility includes oversight of all international passengers and cargo that arrives into the Port of Kansas City. He's also the program manager of the Port's SEVIS DSO International Student Program, a Deferred Inspection Office, and Foreign Trade Zones Administrator as well. He's been an officer with US CBP for 12 years, working at multiple locations all throughout the United States. I'm sure Kansas City's his favorite, but I don't know that he can tell us that. Mr. Abrams has extensive knowledge and hands-on experience with reviewing and processing international students' entry to the United States under the SEVIS program. Like I said, we're super, super excited to have him here with us today. And so without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Officer Abrams.
Thank you, Courtney. And yes, Kansas City is my favorite place thus far. I want to say thank you to our university for having myself here and my agency, which is U.S. Customs and Border Protection. And I want to say thank you for everyone that's joining us today. It's an awesome to have the opportunity to speak with international students. It's not something that usually happens. This is only the second time we've been able to engage university students like this between the agency and you guys as well. So thank you to your university for going out and bringing us in to talk with you. As Courtney said, my name is Luke Abrams. I am the supervisor for U.S. Customs and Border Protection here at the Port of Kansas City. She gave a really nice introduction, so I won't go deep into that. I will start off by saying that this series is called a hack series, and no way are we going to talk about hacking your way into the U.S. border or crossing. And I say that jokingly because I know no one would. Just as a disclaimer, the goal of today's topics and what we're going to talk about is making you an informed and confident traveler under the SEVIS program. So what I'm really going to do is I'm going to present to you open source information that you can look online technically, but kind of give you the firsthand account. As someone who's processed thousands of international students coming in, I explain to you what our agency is doing as you come in. Just what is the process? All of you are from a foreign country, and your customs are different when it comes to coming and going. And just so you have an idea of what's taking place and how to just better prepare yourself. So the hack is in that you will be a prepared traveler, a confident traveler, and that you know what you need to have when you show up. If you feel something might be going wrong or have questions, or maybe to take out some of those worries or fears that you might have. So that's the goal, is to humanize CBP, humanize your experience, and to give you someone to talk to firsthand with questions, concerns, or issues. So I am working on a very archaic device, so I have to present, and I'm going to lose the screen. So I'm going to go right to my PowerPoint, and I'll keep talking. I won't be able to see the comments, so if Courtney, if something comes up or someone does have a question, I'd ask for them to be at the end, but if something comes up, just say something, 'cause I won't be able to visually see other than my presentation.
Sounds
I'm going to share. I apologize. For some reason, it is not sharing what I wanted to. And we just tested this right beforehand, and I don't know why. Let me test something and change it here. I apologize.
You said technology wasn't working for you today, so
it wasn't. There we go. I just, it really doesn't.
There we go. That's up there.
We're seeing the screen, hopefully. We're seeing the Kansas City port of entry.
Yep, we can see that.
Okay, so I'll begin then. As I said, this is just really what to expect and how to prepare yourself. And so what we're going to do is really quickly go into what the agency is. Just so you know, the United States has a bunch of different government agencies that has oversight of different aspects of how we run our country. One of those aspects is folks coming in and leaving the United States, what we call the border. And that's where we, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, have authority. And what we do there is we inspect people and cargo coming into the country by examining them and doing different things and looking for stuff. Obviously, to make sure things stay legal, no issues or problems, and then for those few issues with nefarious folks or bad cargo coming in. But again, this is really going to focus just on your guys' experience as students, international students coming in. And that's where I'm going to put this. Myself, I'm in blue. So folks that you see in blue, those are ports of entry, and that's usually an airport. Most of you probably flew into JFK, Chicago, Dallas, Atlanta, Miami. Very rarely do we get folks directly here to Kansas City. But you're flying into big airports. You're coming through the process. And since all of you are online, I'm assuming you're here in the U.S., so you already made it once. Good job. The idea is to hopefully make you a better traveler, and you can share this information with other folks as well. But the folks you deal with are the ones in blue. And we're the folks when you come up, you get off your aircraft, some airports you collect your bags first, you do the pre-primary process where you fill out the declaration or form, and then you walk up to a booth and you actually start that process of talking to a U.S. Customs and Border Protection officer. And that's my agency. Those are the folks I have oversight over. And they're the ones that are engaging you and talking to you about what's going on. So as I go through the presentation, I'm going to kind of take it in that sort of theme. We're starting you at the beginning and then walking your way through to the end. I'm also going to cover, if by chance you forget your I-20, there is relief there. It's not something I recommend that you do. And I'll mention that numerous times, but we'll talk about that relief and what's there. But again, so we're going to start you off as you're coming in and you're arriving to us. So primary inspection is what we call that moment when you have your bags or you yourself have walked up to us and now you're physically talking to an officer. We call this primary inspection. What primary inspection is the first moment we interact with international travelers as you're such as international students. On our end, what we're doing is we are doing a quick synopsis of the human being in front of us. Who is this person? Why are they here? What documents do they have to present? How long are they going to be here for? These are the questions that are going on. And if you've been through this process, probably sound like questions you've already been asked before, because this is what we're gleaning. It makes sense. Every country wants to know how long folks that aren't citizens are staying for, how long and why, right? Should make sense. So, as I said to you, we inspect all persons and baggage coming in. We're also collecting your biometrics. And for most of you folks with their part of the CVIS program, you've already done that with the State Department getting your visa. So it might seem redundant unless we have some Canadians. They don't need visas to come in. But it might seem redundant. We're taking your photograph, fingerprints. It's all a part of the process of our security. Because once we collect this information, if we have to someday, hopefully never have to rely on it, we have that there. So that's what's happening at that moment. So when you come in and they say, we need to take your picture, where you look at the camera, takes a photograph. They would say, we need to fingerprints, right hand, 4 fingers, your left hand, 4 fingers, 2 thumbs, that type of thing. That's what we're doing. We're collecting your biometrics as a visitor. That is very common throughout the world. We're all accustomed to do. Very few don't. And if they don't, it's probably monetary. They can't afford it. The questioning portion of primary. So as a student, you're coming in, and especially with your initial entry, we want to know who you are, what you're doing, and why. These questions I hope don't feel too deep, but you are crossing into the country, so we do need to know this information. I will put this out there now. Sometimes you might get a grumpier customs official. Do you understand this? If you've traveled in those major airports, JFK, Miami, the big airport, Chicago, there's you and about, let's say maybe on a good day at those ports of entry, about 1,000 people behind you. And we have to ask that same question every single time. Doesn't mean that we should never be professional. What I'm getting at is if you've done anything repetitive a lot, you might not be as endearing and or welcoming. And I apologize. That's not our goal as our agency. We always want to be professional, but we have more people behind you to ask that question and keep going, because like you were waiting in line to talk with someone for maybe 20, 30, 40 minutes. If I sit there and have deep conversations with every single person, the wait would be forever. So this is where this help is part of this hack, is where you can come in, if you know, be open and upfront with the questioning. And the question should be based upon you as a student. Where are you going to college? You should be able to know what's going on with your school, where you're going and why. Like I said, if you're unable to, we all get nervous. It happens, and that's okay. And we will try to hopefully get that information out of you and work with you. I look at it like this. Any of the folks that are on that are American citizens, I have a feeling is if they get pulled over by the police, say for speeding or something like that, our hearts still race. Mine does too. And I've been in law enforcement for quite a long time, and I'm like, oh boy, it still happens. We understand that people get nervous when they come up. Take a breath, take your time, and answer the questions as best you possibly can. It's just as simple as that. So after we've done our questioning and we've gleaned the information we need, we're going to review your documents. Students, your visa, your I-20, your passport, those documents that we are going to verify. We're usually going to take a passport, we're going to hold it up, we're going to look at you. We're going to match the photograph to you. We're going to review your visa, make sure everything's in order and everything's in place for your time stay here in the United States. And we're going to review that I-20. I highly recommend that you always have the original copy, and or now with COVID, you can still have a printed copy, but have a physical copy, a piece of paper. We will entertain an electronic document if no physical document is there. But from doing this from 12 years, I know it's archaic. Have a printed form, have a picture as a backup, have electronic as a backup. But always have that I-20. It's extremely important to have. So, and again, I've been sick. I apologize. So I'll need to drink water through this to not cough at you guys. I don't want that to happen. So once we have collected your biometrics, we've questioned you, found out who you are, what you're doing, and why. We reviewed those documents to verify that story. We then, on primary, can actually admit you, and that's the issuance of that I-94 and the stamp that you get in your passport. Most of you, if you fly in, it's just going to be a stamp. They still sometimes at the land borders will issue white documents that go with it, but those are all pretty much electronic now. Primary inspection for us should go about 45 seconds to about minute 30. That's usually our processing time. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but that's what we shoot for. So that being said, if we can conduct the exam at that time, we'll usually admit you from there. And that's, you go on your merry way, you go down to Ottawa University and enjoy life. With the I-94 issues, I'm sure someone will have questions about that. We'll talk at the end, because this is an area where we do interact, and you guys get information gets sometimes screwed up or annotated wrong. Old documents are used, something of that nature. So we'll talk about that at the end, but I understand that's usually an area of contention and problem. So let's just say you've got to go to secondary inspection. Excuse me, I'm actually jumping myself. I apologize for coughing. I have tips in here for you. I don't want to go past those tips. All right, so tips. Have all your documents ready for the inspection and what's necessary for you to gain entry. So again, as students, passport, I-20, and for everyone minus Canadians, visa. Got to have that on hand. Have those documents ready to go. Don't have them packed in your bag. You've waited in the line a half an hour. Pull those documents out, get them ready. That's all we need to see. And whatever documents, if you do a electronic declaration, that too. But again, those 3 documents, have them ready. You would not believe the amount of time it saves if you have those documents actually physically in hand. If you have dependents coming with you, so your F2s, make sure all their documents are prepared. Make sure they have all their information ready to go. Because again, If you're rifling for documents, this takes time. Seconds add to minutes, minute adds to hours, and wait times. Wait times are no good for you, and they're no good for us. Before you come back to the United States, make sure all your documents are valid. If you have issues, that's what you have DSOs for. Reach out to them. But you should be preparing, constantly making sure. I understand that your programs are extremely important, and the education you're receiving from Ottawa University, I'm sure is difficult, but rewarding. But that being said, you don't go to school unless the United States government, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, gives that final approval at the end. You've got to make sure your documents are valid. You've got to make sure you're in status, because it doesn't matter how much or what those professors are asking of you, you can't even go to school unless you have valid documents. So those are very important. And I understand with the big workloads, everything else, making entry kind of goes to the side after you've made it in the first time. I get it. But I'm telling you now, you need to always make a special spot for that at some point, because again, we see a lot of sad situations where folks have dedicated themselves to their education and put no heed into their immigration status, and they lose it all. Please don't make that you. It's not easy, but it's not something that it should happen. Like I said, you've got a great group at Ottawa University to help you out. As I said, make pictures and copies. We do not accept these. And I'm going to put that disclaimer out there. We do not accept pictures and copies of anything. We can use them if it helps us, and then we can make a final determination. You have to have the physical documents on your person when you show up, but it doesn't hurt to have backups. I recommend it. I also recommend having your DSO, your International Student Office number, your DSO's number, any way to contact these folks, because they're your liaison to us. Your designated school officials, your DSOs, are the folks that we work between to get the information, and they help validate information if you're missing something. Having these relationships, and this is why I do my best to build relationships with DSOs, because really it's for you, the international student, because it's going to come down to the other day is you forgot something, something got lost, something was wrong. And if I can contact your DSOs, Ottawa U, and I get the information, it can be you sitting for hours or losing entry to you coming in right away. So again, have that contact information. It's huge. Be prepared for questioning that's relevant to your status. So again, you're gonna get asked questions. And it's nothing that please don't feel that it is anything to do that we don't trust you, we don't know you. We ask everybody questions. We ask everyone questions that are coming to our country to, one, build and understand who they are, to talk with them, and obviously it's our way is a part of security. We're gonna talk with you. So again, if they ask questions that might be obvious, it's nothing to do with the lack of untrust or we find you nefarious. I'll give you one inside tip. Sometimes I ask questions because I'm typing information and I need to keep you going and me going at the same time. So I'm processing you. I might ask a round question like, if you said you go to Ottawa University, what are you studying there? I obviously could pick up your I-20, but I'm also doing other work as we're talking, is I put inputting information. So I'm just building a relationship with you. So again, questions aren't always to be, we don't trust this person or what's going on. It's really a conversation we're having with you. And we're pulling information we need to do our job. And that's pretty much all that covers. All right. So as I was quickly ready to send you to secondary exam, let's get to secondary inspections. So as I was talking about, you're at primary. So what happens and what is secondary? Why secondary? What's going on? So I do cover it pretty well in the PowerPoint here, and I want to make this clear. Being referred to CBP secondary inspection is not derogatory in any means. And what is secondary inspection? What this is we have you at primary inspection for, as I told you, about 45 seconds to a minute and a half. Now, we talked about those folks in line, right? Thousands of people behind you, thousands of people that were before you got to talk to us. We have to keep that flow moving. It's unfair to spend an extra 10, 15 minutes with one person when all these people are in line. We've got to keep those lines moving. So that's where secondary inspection comes in. And especially with international students, you guys are staying for a little bit longer. You have a little bit, it's a great program, but something I have to input data or the information we have might be incorrect. If we can't process you in that amount of time, there's a good possibility you're going to go to secondary. Secondary inspection, as I said, and I want to say this again, is not a bad thing. It is not a bad thing. It's, again, usually an administrative function and or we want to examine the goods that you have too as well. We can't examine goods on primary. So let's say your bag, and I asked you if you're bringing anything with you, and you're like, I brought a bunch of food from my home country. Well, we do check food coming in as well. We have agriculture specialists. So I might refer you to secondary. It has nothing to do with you being a student and your immigration status. But we function in different ways. We check agriculture, we check the cargo, those bags, and we check the people. So we have two-pronged mission. And so you might be referred, not anything to do with being a student. It's just because we need to look at the food and make sure it's all good to come in. And again, if you're referred, like we can't understand something on the I-20, we're going to refer you in. Nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong with your status. We just need more time to verify something. Could be a technical issue that we're having too. Software is not working. Surprise, surprise, government computers don't work all the time. These are all reasons. So again, I want to, if I can bring a hack to this, is that I want to de-escalate the idea of going to secondary. Yes, it's going to probably be more time, which stinks, but it's not a bad thing. It really isn't. It's just the second wave that we have to help the process that we have going on. And as my PowerPoint says, gives us more time to solve problems, call your DSO, resolve any technical issues, check bags, those types of things. And then obviously the processing functions of, if you forgot your CBIS form, the I-515A alpha. So tips for secondary. Pretty much the same thing as when it comes to primary. Always have your documents available and ready. Really the big thing, and I've underlined it, and I cannot stress this enough, have your DSO's information. I'm going to say it one more time. You don't understand how helpful this can be. Because again, if we have issues or problems with the I-20, we have questions about what's going on, maybe something, not that Ottawa University would ever input anything wrong, but other universities out there. So another thing was input wrong, and we have to check that and verify it. This again can save someone's processing time from hours to minutes. You know, that's what we want, and that's what you want too. You don't need to be sitting with us when things should be good to go. So again, there's really no tips other than that. Just be prepared, and again, understand we ask questions, and it's not because anything bad. That's just what we do. I will touch on this. If you do feel questioning is going beyond the spectrum of what's going on, you can always talk to a supervisor, and you can request that. And I bring this up because sometimes you might not know. So with our agency, you're dealing with frontline officers. They are anywhere between our folks that just got out of academy all the way to what we have as a rank called journeyman. And some of these folks have a year or two on the job to 20 plus. Long group of people you're dealing with. Folks that, you know, are really good at processing quick, and some that are very good but learning still. If you feel something's going weird or wrong or not to what your understanding is, you can always request to speak with a supervisor. And I recommend this. Sometimes it's harder to understand folks. Let's be blunt. Your first language is probably not English. So I talk fast. I'm from Western New York. I talk quick. Might not be able to understand me if I'm on primary, and I'm asking you a bunch of questions really quickly, and you're like, whoa, hang on, I don't know. We might get lost in translation because I'm performing a service and a function. So again, if things aren't making sense, or you're in secondary and it's not going right, just say, can I please talk with a CBP supervisor? And that's where we are. And what's nice is sometimes it breaks up, and we come in looking at it from a third party point of view. So, because you're both invested into what's going on where we aren't at the moment, we come in, we take a look at it, and maybe hopefully we can solve and make issues. But I want that out there so you know. You can always request to speak with a supervisor when you're coming through. And it's something I do recommend if you feel it's necessary. So as of my follow-up for both of these areas when you come in. So again, hopefully from secondary, you're released as well and you go on your way. Hopefully resolve everything and you're on your way. So you're now out the door and going to Ottawa University. So to take from this and hopefully share some information, we have a very large and complex mission. It is not just focusing on you at that moment and those thousands of people. We've got a lot. As Courtney was reading my intro, I was humbled. I do a lot of these things. It's just we have so many different worlds that we take control of because our agency was smushed together after 9/11 with a bunch of others. This agency was Immigration, a Naturalization Service. It was U.S. Customs. It's parts of USDA. And then we enforce about 29 other agencies' laws and rules and regulations because we are the only federal government agency at the U.S. border. So you are part of our mission and a very important part of our mission, but understand that we do have a lot else going on. So again, sometimes we might pull folks that are not from the, say, processing side, from the cargo side in to cover because, again, folks need time off, people are sick, those types of things. So if you get someone who might not seem that they know what they're doing or something going on, it's okay to ask for questions. Ask questions, always okay to ask questions. And if things don't go well, ask for a supervisor. And I just answered my second PowerPoint and said, smush them together. And again, I guess I just smushed all three of them. If you need help, if things are going wrong, ask for a supervisor. We're here to help you out. All right, so that pretty much concludes, like I said, what we do. When it comes to primary, having you guys educated in primary and secondary, my goal is actually also to make you, as I said, making you confident and informed travelers is good for us too. Because if you're confident and informed and you can come through, we can process faster. And technically, if we want to get real philosophical, it actually helps the greater good. Because if we can process you faster, we can focus on the folks that need to be focused on. Folks like yourselves that have spent the time to go through the CBIS program, got your visa, been through the State Department, working with the DSOs. You've done a lot of vetting and everything else. We want to get you through. We want to process you as fast as we possibly can and let us focus our mission on the areas that need to be focused on. So like I said, that's the goal, is just making you an informed and confident traveler. So let's talk about, just in case you forget that I-20. So Form I-515A, the Notice to Student and Exchange Visitor. So you got on the plane and you forgot your I-20. It is a big deal, not gonna lie to you. It's a big deal. It can be fixed, it can be resolved, all right? So in front of you, I have an actual form, what it physically looks like. At the end of the day, we're gonna issue this to you. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna come up to us, and you say you got me on primary, Officer Abram, I forgot my I-20. Okay, your N number, your DSO contact. Yep, I went through Supervisor Abrams' presentation and I have all that stuff because I came prepared. So I'll look at your electronic data, whatever, and then I'll start looking at our software. I am going to send you to secondary because obviously this is an administrative process that cannot be performed on primary. Bring you into secondary. We will do everything we need to do on our end to verify your status, call folks, check our systems, those types of things. What you're seeing in front of you is the actual physical form. So if we're satisfied that it was a mistake and no issues or problems, we're going to issue this form. Your then duty is to contact your DSO, and I believe it's this time, I haven't looked this hard in a while, I think you have, it's 30 days to get your CBIS form to show proof to the address that's shown below. That hasn't changed any time I've seen recently, but again, just look for the address in case there was. COVID has changed things so greatly this time, and things are going to areas. But again, that's what you do. It's kind of simple. Please don't forget your form. But again, relief is there. Relief is in that form as long as you are still in good standing and everything else. There's no issues or problems. Okay, so that ends my portion of the PowerPoint.
Great. So while Officer Abram is stopping that screen share and everything, go ahead and put your questions in the chat for me, guys. And I will start asking those to him as soon as I have some.
So Courtney, as we talked about, we're going to end recording, correct? Because, and I asked this, so if you feel, I want to make this a safe space so you can ask questions, but understand if you have some personal questions, you have great DSOs at Ottawa University, bring them to them and they'll bring them to us. So don't feel that this is your only chance to talk with me or for me to answer your specific question that you might have. Do reach out. But again, if it's personal, something that you don't want shared everywhere, and I don't blame you, reach out to your DSO and email me and I'll get back to you ASAP. Because I mean, you've taken time to hear me today. I'll take time out of my day to make sure I can answer your questions as soon as possible.
Perfect. Okay, we've got some coming in, so I'll start with the first one. Can it be an issue when we are coming back to the US if our F1 visa has an ABC university on it, but currently I am enrolled in Ottawa, so my I-20 is for Ottawa University? Is that going to be a problem?
Yes and no. Let me go into detail. No, technically, as long as your CVIS status is still valid and Ottawa University has gone out of their way to make sure that it's all good to go on their end through the CVIS program, as long as that visa is valid still, you're good to go. Now, mind you, this will probably be a secondary examination because, again, in primer, we're looking for all those factors to be lined up for us real quick. You know, this university, this I-20, boom, 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 boom. Okay, have a great day, bye. It might cause you, but at the end of the day, no. You have an F1 visa. It's still valid. There's no issues. Nothing was taken away. As long as there's no, also a thing to think about too, is there any issues at the previous ABC school? If there was, that might cause a problem. Say you failed that, not that I'm saying you did any of these things, but if you were to fail out or have issues or problems, but again, Ottawa University, I would assume would look at that as well. But as long as you have, you're in good standing with the university, you should be fine. Just watch those dates because again, with the time of COVID, if you leave and come back and it's expired, you sadly lose that opportunity to use that visa anymore. Hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah, I think so. Great. So the next one is, now with the pandemic, have things changed at the point of entry? And if they have, please tell us what has changed.
There's mass amounts of changes. Is there anything particular you're in the essence of primary and secondary processing? Or I mean, I can go into a brief overview, but I just want to make sure I'm answering your question.
I believe, oh, she just responded with regards to the processing. Yes.
Sure. So all officers are required, obviously, to follow strict COVID standards, masks. Most ports of entry, like ours, we've gotten plexiglass up now in areas that we've never had before. When it comes to the actual physical process of you know, getting off the plane, grabbing your bag, and walking up to us, no, that actually hasn't. Now, electronically, we've had some advancements in our technology. And so something called simplified arrival is now coming to major airports where it's streamlining that process. So I'm not having to physically touch documents, those types of things. But we're leaving that on each port of entry, and it's really based more on their technology. But again, we're getting to the point now where you just walk up, a picture's taken of you, and we have all the information we need. So that's the future of CBP, and that's where we're all trying to go. But yeah, when it comes to the primary process, obviously the COVID mask, those types of things, and the traveler needs those as well. But not a ton other than with electronics.
Awesome. The next one, first, I want to thank you for the great presentation. And then they asked, there are some rumors saying that graduate level students from China with STEM majors are likely to be blocked by US Customs and Borders. Is this true? Have the procedures to check students from China changed? Are there any specific recommendations for Chinese students?
Keep doing what you're doing, because what you're doing is right. So I understand what you're talking about. There have been talks. Nothing has taken place thus far. With the administrative changes that we've had with the presidency, they may or may not. I have now worked for 4 different presidents, and they change every single time. Just keep up to date with the news. And again, you have a great group at Ottawa University. I know that it's always asking questions and making sure. There have been talks. I won't deny that. But nothing has been changed as of yet. No changes. So just keep doing what you're doing. Keep going to school, and hopefully things smooth themselves out here in the near future.
Great, thank you. This next one is in regards to traveling between borders under F1 status. Is it possible to travel to Canada and or Mexico without needing a visa stamp for re-entry? I heard previously you could travel if it was 30 days or less.
So John, stay in Ottawa University, don't leave. Sorry, no. Right now, both the northern and southern borders of the United States are closed to any travel that is not deemed necessary. So sadly, the day to go enjoy or see family in either of those countries right now is still suspended. March 21st was the latest I have heard on the date. It has been literally pushed off every month for almost a year now. So March 21st is now the technical reopen date for the borders. But again, we'll see where what happens. If you're talking about auto reveal with this 30 days, you could do an auto reveal if you're traveling to, say, Mexico or Canada in the 30-day period. Yes, that is technically still there, but gaining access to those countries, you'd have to probably fly if that is something you're looking to do with the auto reveal. I'm needing a visa stamp. So you're always gonna, I want to answer this correctly because it's kind of different. We do it differently at the land border versus the airport. Whenever you fly through an airport, you will always get a stamp in your passport, always. Now, land border is different. Land border is different because we don't know who's showing up, and there's thousands of people coming to the border every single day. We process 1 million people before COVID every day. So as you show up, we don't know who you are. So if you were to come and say a student, we would actually review your stuff in primary, like we would say at the airport. I was talking. If your I-20 is in order, your stamp's in order, everything's in order, we release you right there from primary. We don't send you to secondary. So you technically wouldn't get a stamp. You're correct on that. But that's because of how we mitigate traffic to handle that massive workload. But again, if you fly, you'll always get a stamp, guaranteed. If you don't, let your DSO know, and they'll tell me, and we'll get that fixed.
Great. How many times can we travel outside the U.S. while studying on an F1 visa? Is there any limit to how many times you can go outside on that visa?
Not necessarily. If you start traveling out of the country during the time that you should be at school, I would assume you're actually going to start running into issues in your ability to maintain good standing with your school. So no, there isn't, but it would. The best way to put it is, as long as your travel falls within what is normal, no problem. Like, so if you want to, like, during summer vacation time, travel 2 or 3 times, yeah, makes sense. But if you're flying in and out of the country all the time while school's in session, we're definitely going to have interest in that. I don't think that's where you're going. I just trying to answer it as best I can, as broadly, is that yeah, no, there's no times, like you can only go 5 times total. Whatever makes sense to you and your university, because they're the ones who keep you in status.
Perfect. Are visas for F1 getting stamped at the International Embassy, given that Ottawa University is not open in person, but online only so far during the pandemic?
I'm trying to wrap my head around that one. Hang on one second. No, the embassy. Now, when we talk about the stamp, the actual, are we talking about the admit stamp, the stamp from USCBP? I mean, I think I'd need to know that to answer your question. If that is the case, the answer is no. The only agency that's going to physically stamp your passport with a stamp is U.S. Customs and Border Protection. The embassies are the ones who issue you the visa. So no, that wouldn't happen there.
So he has also, Jason's followed up and said, for status changes from H1 to F1 visa. So
you're saying is, and this might be one we have to answer probably maybe through email, and like I said, we can take a look at it. For the adjustment of status, if you're doing it overseas and coming back in, we would be, yeah, no, I understand the question. Let's shoot this one for an email. I'll be happy. I think with a little more detail, I can give a good solid answer. And I'm sorry, Jason, I like to answer right away, but I want to give you a good answer on what you're looking at there.
This is Regan. I'm one of the DSOs here in Ottawa. I think maybe part of that question is stemming from, because we have most of these students, or all these students, are in our executive MBA program, and currently we are fully online due to COVID. And so if we have a student in initial status, as you know, they can't come into the program. But if we have a student who is currently in the program, and let's say they go back to their home country, but they have that expired visa, so they need to get it renewed before they come back, are they able to do that? I could be wrong in that question, but that might be part of it.
No, and I would want Jason to verify, but I'm guessing you're probably pretty close. That makes a lot more sense. When it comes to the embassies, it is hit or miss who's open and who is not. It's really going to be based on the country where you're from. I have heard stories from everywhere, to embassies being still completely closed to some of them actually opening up. So it's a very difficult time to transition status. Very difficult, just because the embassies aren't there to do the process. So yeah, it's a really tough time for immigration purposes. But again, if we can find out which country and what we're looking at, I can give a better answer and hopefully give them something to work with.
So yeah, Jason, if you want to email either myself or Kim after this, or national programs after this, we will make sure to get you connected with Officer Abrams so that we can get that answered a little bit clearer as well.
Thank you, Courtney. Yep, if you could email me, this is Kim, directly. We'll get in contact with Officer Abrams and get those questions clarified. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Kim. All right, the next one. Again, thanking you for the tips to follow. Wanting to know if traveling to states like Hawaii or Alaska, anywhere outside of mainland USA, is risky. Will you go through secondary questioning at the port of entry?
So when it comes to immigration, no, you will not run into any of those issues. When it comes to actually traveling, I know Hawaii has state issued bans on them. So even though you've made entry to the mainland United States, I don't know the exact specifics with Hawaii, other than just watching the news like you folks do. But I know there's restrictions on folks coming from mainland to Hawaii. When it comes to Alaska, they may have something similar in place, but that's where you'd refer to the CDC for their guidelines. But once you've made entry to the United States, you can travel freely, obviously. But again, in the time of COVID, that changes. But when it comes to immigration or being asked questions, no. Once you've made entry to the United States, you're part of us. You're here. So, it's only going to go up by whatever the state has mandated.
Perfect. Another thank you for your answers. An amazing, insightful presentation. I'm loving reading that, guys. I'm glad that you guys are finding this as good as we hoped you would. The question is, are COVID test results needed when coming back in the US? Is there a link where we can access what additional documents are needed due to the pandemic specifically?
Yes, the answer is resounding yes. So January 26th, I believe, was the date that to fly to the United, and that's U.S. citizens too. This isn't just foreign nationals or anyone else. Everybody flying to the United States has to have a COVID test or some sort of medical waiver in place. Good luck with those. I have not seen anyone be successful with those yet, but I've heard rumors. Yes, you have to have a COVID test. USCDC.gov is the go-to for everything when it comes to international travel with the pandemic. The airlines have really taken a big step in maintaining this and making sure. So yes, if you are foreign and coming in as of this time, and that's everybody. That's if I choose to go to one of these direct flights we have to Mexico and come back, I have to have a COVID test in Mexico before I come home. And that goes for everyone. So yes, the answer is yes. And cdc.gov is the place you go for all information COVID travel.
This is Kim again. We did send an email to everyone's student emails back on January 13th announcing this new regulation, and it does have the direct link to the CDC. So I encourage all you students who are online to look back at your student email. Again, January 13th is when we sent that notice. And if you need that resent, please let International know and we'll resend that to you.
Great, thanks to both of you. Next one, is it important to fly to the same city where the university is located, or is it okay to enter another city first while re-entering from another country?
You can enter at any port of entry you like. There's no rules or regulations when it comes to which location you choose. So say you go to Ottawa University, doesn't mean you have to fly to Dallas because it's the probably largest, closest international. Now we are international, but we don't have flights. We had flights to Iceland last year. So folks from Europe, that was really our only main way. But if you do fly to Cancun from your home country and come with us in Kansas City, you're fine. But no, you can fly up to Alaska and then fly down to Iowa University if it makes sense for you. There is no rules, regulations, as long as you go to a port of entry. That's the only rule. You got to go to a port of entry.
Perfect. Okay, the next one is, can doing a second master's be a problem with entry? And are all students with ABC University, but now enrolled at Ottawa, subjected to secondary?
It's a good question. And the answer is more than likely no. And I understand what you're saying is, you subjected. Obviously, when you don't have everything perfectly in place for those 45 seconds to a minute and a half, can you? Sure. But like I said, a lot of the folks you're going to deal with are folks like myself. And if you take me, go back, I became a supervisor three years ago. You had me on the line. I had processed thousands and thousands of students. So I would look at this and see that you have and this is where the questioning comes in too. This is where the questioning actually becomes really important, because I'm going to look at those three things, and let's just say you have ABC University, and I look up and I'm like, so you're going to where now? Ottawa. Oh, okay. It's my, and you explain to me, yeah, I'm going for my master's degree or secondary master's. Also, I'm getting that information. I can now say, okay, this makes sense. Good CVIS, good passport, old visa kind of, it's still valid, but other school, but this makes sense. This person in front of me is giving me the information I need to make a quick decision. Here's your stuff. Have a great day. So again, a lot of folks, when they get up to us, they get nervous. They don't like to talk to us, whatever else. I get it. I understand. But this is where information and engaging the officer can make you be waiting for a couple hours or down the road. So choose how you would like to take that. Any way you want is fine by us. But yeah, that's a good one where questioning comes in, and having that information ready, because I can be processing, really focused on getting stuff done. And I'm like, you can even bring it up. Like, hey, just let you know my visa says Mizzou, and now I'm going to Ottawa for my bachelor's. Oh, okay, thanks, man. I appreciate that. And I'll keep processing. Have a good day. So hopefully that makes sense.
Great. Another thank you for the presentation. Great info and insights. If I have a change of status, H1, they are now an H1 student and no longer on F1 visa, do I still need to carry all documents relevant to F1 during immigration?
No, you do not. I am a very prepared person. And so I would probably, if I'm in your shoes, carry all my documents. No, but this is a good time for those pictures, just to have them as a backup. So if for some reason something came up that there was a question, you have it ready. But no, we have reached a time where, again, it's no longer required to carry it. But, a couple photographs in your Google Photos can't hurt. But no, you do not need to have it whatsoever.
Perfect. And then we've just got two more just thank yous, and I appreciate that, guys. Last call for questions. So if you have anything else, please put those in the chat. Like we've said before, if you have a question but you're not comfortable asking it here where it's being recorded, or you want to give a little bit more personal details, definitely connect with Kim Hankins, and she will make sure to get that up to Officer Abrams so we can get that answered for you. Okay, looks like we did have a few more come in. Let's say I'm doing my EMBA and have CPT. If I get H-1B stamping for my home country and while coming back to the US, I decide to take a break or discontinue my coursework, do I need to keep on hand anything for the port of entry?
I'm going to need to answer that one by email and maybe get them a little bit more information, since it's very specific, and I don't want to give out information. I mean, in general, the general terms, it never hurts to keep information. And I understand I hate paperwork and I like electronics. But you got to remember, a lot of you are really people that we want in this country, right? You're coming over here, you're learning skill sets, we're educating you. You're being part of some amazing programs. There's a high probability that U.S. companies are going to want you to work for them, right? And so the way I try to really get into people and let them know early on is the whole process is being watched and audited and checked. So every step of the way, it's really important to make sure, one, to do the right thing, of course, but it never hurts to have that documentation because things change. Or like in the time of COVID, you might not be able to get home and get those F1 because now you are going to put in for your green card and now USCIS is asking for those documents, right? So again, I'm a big believer in the electronic snapping of pictures of stuff that's not needed, but I do recommend to all of you, since you are professionals, you are taking education to push yourself farther, there's going to be a high probability that you're going to be dealing with USCIS at some point, and they love asking for documents. And that's U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services, not USCBP, another agency. And so I highly recommend for students, especially like yourselves, bring the documents with you. Why? Because God forbid COVID comes back, rearing back up again, or more travel restrictions, you can't get that document, and now you're trying to adjust status and take care of your family and get a job. It doesn't hurt. So yes, you always try to keep your documents with you. Are we going to require them? More than likely, no. But I will take that one on, though, as we should probably get a little bit more to give them a specific answer.
Perfect. So sorry, my screen's far away and apparently I can't read. I think it's Cy that asked that one. Make sure you just, like I said, email Kim and she can help you get the rest of that answered. Any recommendations on declaring customs?
That's broad. Declare everything. I'm going to give you a broad answer with a broad question. So when it comes to customs, declaration is everything. All right, let me break it down for you. So if you're crossing the border to any country, they usually want to know what you have on your person, all right, and what you're bringing with you, the physical objects that you have. Declare everything. The only time we actually have power is when you fail to declare something, and or if it's an illegal prohibited item, obviously. I want to make that crystal clear. Drugs, undeclared money, weapons, these types of things, yeah, that's just a no-go. That's everywhere. But let's talk about all the other things, and there's millions of other things. Declare it all. Because again, our power, U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers' power comes from failure to declare. You've all probably got those little blue forms where you write down all the information or you ask questions. Did you buy anything? Did you acquire anything? Are you in possession of any snails or fruits or vegetables? Have you been on a farm in the past few weeks? These types of weird questions. You're like, why am I being asked this question? This is weird. Because these are actually the legality things we're looking for. And that's where we build our basis to actually start a case is if you fail to declare, then that's where our power comes from. So declare everything. If you do, then you're more than likely going to be just fine. If you don't declare stuff, especially food always seems a big one because again, you're coming from your homeland and what do we all miss? We miss our food. I'm from Western New York. I miss chicken wings so bad. It's crazy. I love Kansas City, but our wings, so. I would probably bring wings back if New York is a foreign country. They might be prohibited though. So declare these things. So if you have these specialty foods, these specialty items, plants, people love to bring their plants because you've taken care of that thing and grown it, declare it because those things could be prohibited. If they are, we just take it. It's no big deal. If you fail to declare, that's where arrests take place. That's where seizures take place. That's where penalties take place. That's not a world you want to go down.
I think it was great. More thank yous, very helpful. Next question is, if a previous F1 visa with ABC University was rejected, but then you received a new F1 visa that was approved from Ottawa with a new CVIS, is that going to cause any issues during entry?
Don't leave unless you really have to. And I take that with a grain of salt. If you're in the status, that means you're adjusting status. You technically can't leave. If you do, it's going to cause a big bunch of problems. You're just going to need, because you're now working with the USCIS, you're going to need to get what is called an I-512, and that's a waiver to be able to, so we can parole you back in. Again, be happy to take that one on in email form as well, because it's very specific and probably affects family too. But at this time, that's fine. You're very legal. You're good. but you leaving will cause major issues if you haven't worked with USCIS to get that the documentation needed to leave and come back.
Perfect. Okay. So Naveen, if you want to connect with Kim as well, so we can make sure we get that answered fully. Sorry, Kim, go ahead.
I think the next question after that, I think those two got intertwined a little bit. So if those two students can reach out to me directly, we'll connect and get those questions answered. And so I think the next question would be can we invite parents for commencement?
Okay.
And just so everyone is aware, I believe a communication is going out to all eligible students by the end of this week regarding commencement for 2021 graduates. And I believe it is going to be virtual. So if you will be graduating in 2021, please look out for that email. Any questions regarding that will go to Courtney, not me this time, Courtney. So any of those graduation questions, please go to Courtney in regards to that.
And I'll have my colleague Jenny type in the chat our email because she can also help with that. It's just emba@ottawa.edu, which you all should be very familiar with at this point, but just in case, we'll have that in there too. And so Kim, you're saying you believe Amanjo's question is one that we need to email as well? Is that what you meant? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so, and I'm sorry, I apparently really need to wear glasses because I'm struggling here with the blue word. So Amanjo, I'm looking at the first part of your name on here. If you can also email Kim, and Officer Abram can help answer that question privately.
And for the Ottawa staff, if you guys would like, we can do a phone conversation. And the reason I bring this up is, and I want to engage, we as Customs here in Kansas City have a lot of universities and thousands of international students. So to make sure that I'm able to my office is able to give you all the time that's necessary and that you need, I have everything go through the DSOs. And one is because they're professionals and that's who we've designated to work with you. But I'd be happy to, if you want to do a voice call or something like that, to do that as well to help those students out. Sometimes the email can kind of get lost in translation where maybe just that conversation can help. But I'm open to that. Kim, if that's how you guys like to engage, and Lindsay, I'd be fine with that too. But yeah, all questions, after we're done would definitely go to your DSOs.
Perfect. Okay, I think we are done with questions. So I'm going to go ahead and close. I think we made great time, right at an hour. Thank you guys so much for being here and joining us. We're getting a lot of really good feedback. I love to see that. I'm glad that this was helpful. Officer Abram, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to also do this for us. And it was successful, it looks like, which at the end of the day, we're doing this for you guys. So I love to see that. Jenny has also put in there, I know you guys are probably tired of hearing me say this, but if you could please take just 3 minutes to do that survey. That way we can continue doing presentations like these that you guys really benefit from, and we are able to really give you what you need. Some examples of stuff we're looking at doing, we're trying to potentially do like a resume writing one, job search, mental health, that kind of stuff. So please, please, please fill that out. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you would like to see. Just a reminder, we did record this session, so I am going to put it on our EMBA YouTube page. You can find that in our OU Communities page on Blackboard. I'll probably send out a notice when I post it on Blackboard as well, so that should get emailed to you. My hope is to have that by tomorrow, by the end of the day. If not tomorrow, it'll definitely be Monday. And I think that is everything. So again, thank you, Officer Abram. Thank you, everybody that joined us. Thanks, Kim, for your help as well. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Very humbled. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.